talk about the Cavaliers because they continue to roll. They went into OKC and beat the Thunder 120-112 last night. Very good game. LeBron James had 37 points. The new guys stepped up as well. So they are 2 for 2 with these new guys, Sekou.
Yeah, look, you would need the thickest set of blue blockers in the history of the world to not be able to see that this team is so completely different just from an energy perspective. Shout out to Kobe Altman, by the way. For anybody who wondered if he had the chops for this job, he showed you on deadline day that he is not afraid to take the risks necessary, to transform a team. And listen, I'm a fan of any franchise, any general manager who goes against the grain or makes an unpopular move that he believes in his heart of hearts will change his team, even if everybody else thinks otherwise. This guy to my left might know a little something about that. I remember him making a pretty seismic coaching change a few years ago that led to the first title in Cleveland in 50-plus years. And sometimes you got to step out on that ledge and make that choice as a GM. The other part about it that I really love, Kobe Altman is the one who made the trades in the summer. He went back and looked at his own decisions and decided, you know what, this is not working. I got to fix it. You got to take that responsibility when you're sitting in that chair.
Yeah, I think culturally one of the things that's really important when the only thing that's going to represent success for your franchise is winning championships, from a front office perspective, it can't be about you. And Kobe knows that. He knows it can't be about proving yourself right. You have to put yourself in the best position to win this championship. And I heard some of the things he said post-trade. He talked about the fact that it felt like they were on a death march if they didn't do something. That's not a recipe for success in any situation. Most of all, when you've got LeBron James in that locker room, and he does dictate outcome. We said it that night as well. A happy and engaged LeBron James and what he's doing since the trades, and even at the time that he knew the trades were coming, it really transcends almost any other player's gap between on and off. And you saw that in what he did in the games from Christmas Day. You see this graphic here. This is the last 2 games. But the games from Christmas Day until the 7th of February, day before deadline, he was shooting 27% from 3. Here's the graphic now. It's remarkable, 23% from 3. And this was just not a player that was fully engaged and feeling comfortable with his surroundings. And now that he is, he's probably the only player in the NBA that can take that many new faces at the middle of the season and put them in championship form by the end of it.
Griff, I'm going to ask you a question I asked Sekou on 10 before tip. The rejuvenation of LeBron James, is it more about the new guys coming in or the old guys going out?
Both. I think it's both. And LeBron's a basketball savant, and he recognizes immediately how well those pieces fit and how much they needed youth athleticism and more of a defensive mindset. So he's certainly excited about what they can be, but I think he also is freed now a little bit from what maybe he felt was emotionally congested in the locker room. And now all these young kids are so happy to be there that I think everyone is feeling rejuvenated. Kyle Korver was one of the veterans who continued to maintain a high level of play throughout. He was always their best plus-minus player throughout the whole season. But even Kyle now has a different bounce to him. So while he's banging 45% of his threes, he's doing it with a smile on his face.
I just can't overstate the fact that when you take young guys and put them in that situation that some of those veterans who are no longer with Cleveland were in, they don't come in as willing to sacrifice and give up their own games as these younger guys will. If I'm Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr., and I've only seen the playoffs on TV, and you tell me I get to join LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been to the NBA Finals 3 straight years together, LeBron obviously 7 straight overall, that's the Willy Wonka ticket for a young guy who's never been to the show. I mean, you're getting a chance to go potentially to the biggest stage the league has and to show off the parts of your game that nobody's seen past mid-April in your career. That makes a difference. And to me, that makes a huge difference in terms of just the infectious attitude they bring to a locker room. The very first moment you saw these guys on the floor, that fun was back on that Cleveland bench when the vets and the starters over there watching the backups go out there and they're getting cranked up. That works for everybody. Ty Lue I thought he was going to have the flu or something when he left the game. Now he's back healthy. I mean, everybody's energy improves when the energy in the room changes. And I think that's why you have to give Kobe Altman a ton of credit for having the courage to make these moves. There are a lot of front office personnel in this league and in other leagues. They can't always step out on that ledge and make that move. I always think back to when, and this is years ago, tells you how old I am, how long I've been covering this league. When Joe Dumars drafted hometown favorite Mateen Cleaves and thought he was going to make him his point guard of the future and quickly found out that that wasn't going to work and made a trade. You're talking about an entire state of fans, Michigan State fans, watching the guy coming off a championship, and Joe Dumars made a quick decision to change that out. That's leadership in the GM chair or the team president chair that not every franchise is going to have.
Griff, I want to bring a conversation we were having off the air to the air, not mentioning a specific player, but around deadline time, I was asking you about a player that maybe Cleveland could trade for, and you said you didn't like the fit because he was kind of unable to switch on the perimeter, and obviously as you advance it and look at a matchup maybe with the Warriors in the finals, you have to do that to contend with them. For that reason, is Larry Nance the most important of the four new players on the Cavaliers?
I think he's certainly up there of the most important. I mean, all four of those guys really could be extremely important to them as they move forward. He mentioned the young kids from L.A. with Clarkson and Nance coming in with that kind of fresh feel to them and their excitement for being in a playoff run and all of those things. That's going to be really important. What Larry does that's super important is, one, to your point, he can switch onto the perimeter. He plays in space defensively incredibly well. But he also gives them a rolling dynamic finisher that they have not had. And that's something that opens up the court for everyone. And LeBron, because he's so big, when the defense on the weak side reacts to the dive and they suck in just a step, that's all he needs to get the ball on time and on target where it needs to go. And they haven't had that offensive flow for quite some time. So it's going to pay big dividends on the defensive end, although you're not seeing it of late. You will see it on the offensive end. And again, engage LeBron. And they've won 4 straight games. They lead the NBA in scoring 126 a game. They're first in field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and they're 6th in assist.
Unbelievable.
He's back.
Yeah,
and that's what you traded for.
And there's intangibles that are going with those tangibles, and it is really, really fun to watch. Now, let's show you the upcoming schedule presented by Jeep for these Cavaliers. And, Sekou, we take a look. Lots of home games coming out of the All-Star break. They got a TNT against Washington. They're at Memphis, but then home to San Antonio, Brooklyn, Philly, and Denver.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't care where they're playing down the stretch here. They've proved that LeBron has shown us he can take a team that has to go on the road in the playoffs, win on somebody else's floor, and get his team where they need to be. I think he'll relish these opportunities, obviously, to play at the Q. But every chance he gets to get that group away from there and to get them in the environs of a hotel and maybe on a road trip on a bus, it works in his favor because he gets to find out more and pick the brains of these guys and get them more integrated in what they're doing.